Our Professor Benjamin Okaba joins us to speak on the menace of oil theft in the Niger Delta. Professor Okaba is President Ijo Youth Congress. Good to have you here on Newsday. All right, to get us started today, I want to say that this has become quite alarming, this expose about how much we are losing to thieves who are plundering on what seems to be our natural resources that should help grow the economy. Some have said it is very bad, and some have said that it is out of control. For you, looking at it from the indigenous angle, talk to us about this. How can we prevent or how can we mitigate and minimize the theft of oil, crude oil here in Nigeria? Is it even possible?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to correct the introduction, I'm actually Professor Benjamin Okaba, the president of the Ijaw National Congress. Ijaw National Congress, yes. On the phenomenon of crude oil theft, I say phenomenon because it's getting institutionalized. I think, yes, to curb the menace is possible if we are willing to do the right thing. In the first place, we must understand the fundamentals about crude oil theft. One, that it is criminal activities that is highly systemic, involving international collaborators who actually connive with some highly placed or political and military officials that actually involved in siphoning the oil of this country. In fact, only recently we're told of a ship, a super tanker that has a capacity of evacuating 3 times Nigerians' daily products escaped to Equatorial Guinea. And with the figures given earlier, about 1.3 trillion naira is what Nigeria loses to this day. So it is a pitiable situation because the impacts are enormous, one, on the economy of this country. In fact, Nigeria is not benefiting from the fallout from the Russia-Ukraine crisis. In fact, where the oil prices have actually risen, but we don't even have what it takes to meet up with the OPEC quota. It is a sad situation for everybody. Then, just like the Bayelsa State government said, it's not just impacting negatively on the federal government. We, the communities, are impacted upon because every segment, every step taken in these siphoning or the theft of oil impacts negatively on the physical, on the social environment of the people. Is it possible? Yes. One, we need to have some level of deliberate actions. In that regard, I would like to applaud the Nnpc for the award of the surveillance contract to one of us, talking about Tompolo. I think that is a necessary step, but might not be a sufficient step. If we want to deal with this issue holistically, they will also need to address the wider question of systemic corruption in this country. Yes, our national psyche is being affected. In Nigeria today, everybody wants to get rich quickly. Doing business, the normal thing, is no longer the norm. So there must be a drastic change of attitude. And the example must come from top to bottom. Government officials should show example. You know, with these incidences of theft or looting of treasury, Everybody thinks that, well, that is the norm. Today, snake has swollen billions of naira. Yesterday, some termites went and swallowed vouchers worth trillions of naira. It has become a normal. So the ordinary person who ordinarily will have thought of doing business normally feels that, well, corruption is the order of the day. That has to, because the issue of oil theft, the point I'm making is that it should not be discussed in isolation from the systemic corruption that has pervaded every facet of the Nigerian state. Then number two, gets back to the question of resource control. We've said this earlier. Please, place the resources of the people in the hands of the people. Let them manage their resources. Enough of these double standards. You are mining solid minerals in Zamfara, and the ownership is there, and they guide the process, they guide the environment, and they get it. And so why not apply the same thing? Let there be resource control. Restructure this country. Then also, we've only said it. Look, because if you look at the chain of events that lead to the oil theft and the magnitude and all that, it is almost all-encompassing. And the role of the people within is very critical. And what are they doing? There is what we call illicit, well, in our local parlance we call it the bonfire. It is, yes, people tap into the flow stations and they siphon oil, and they are refining them locally. Those products are everywhere. They are even in most of the filling stations. They are even sent across. They are sent. So why not develop modular refineries? When you do that, some of these culprits of oil theft will come back. And if they are given the licenses, we are given also crude oil, sold oil, crude oil, legally through regulated means. And their technology and knowledge is improved upon. These same persons who are destroying the pipelines will now transform illegality to legality. It will be a win-win situation for everybody. Let government pay attention to the question. There should be enough of this stopgap approach. Let us address this. Listen, at the end of the day, government gets its revenue, the people involved get their revenue, there will be employment for people, there will be wealth creation, there will be job creation, there will be the environment will be much, much better, safe for the people, and that is the way to go.
Now, you talked about resource control, but there's still doubt over how the 13% derivation fund from the federal government is being managed, in the oil-producing states. So with the level of corruption that cuts across all levels in Nigeria, is resource control actually visible at this time?
It's very visible. It's very visible. When you talk about how it is managed, yes, we had sad stories in the past. Where we also interrogated our leaders to be accountable for whatever they are receiving. And you can see that there's massive improvement in the utilization of those funds. If you go to the states like River State, Bayelsa, Delta, there's evidence of increase, and other states in the Niger Delta that benefit from this. The 13% derivation. It wasn't as bad as it was in those days, where there was efforts that can be categorized as brazen in stealing off. People are getting accountable. And let the money come. Let us control our resources. Or more persons are involved. So it's possible. It's very, very possible. And again, in addition to that, we talked about community policing. Yeah, it's part of the restructuring agenda we're talking about. Allow the communities to be involved in this. Just take, for instance, if you say pipeline ABC, 3C that are producing ABC are to be managed by some communities, who will come in and steal those things? You don't steal your own thing. You cannot steal what belongs to you. So transfer ownership to the people. And when ownership is transferred to the people, there will be proper management. You won't siphon. The persons will be the police. They will do that. Whether they are international or national collaborators or what have you, whether they are military. The young men have the capacity of curbing all of that, particularly when ownership is given to them.
And speaking of policing the police, so to speak, we know that those who are responsible for a majority of the theft, just as you said, are international collaborators, along with some of our own government officials, unfortunately. And you also spoke about the endemic systemic rot that corruption plays in our nation and in every system of it, including this one. In order to fish out those individuals and companies that are benefiting from this broad daylight thieving, how would you go about it? How would you give some recommendations as to how to police this police? Because we know that those who are stealing are actually supposed to be guarding most of what is there. How do we go about dismantling this system in which high-placed individuals are the ones that are actually a part of the situation that we have right now?
Yeah, the government has all it takes, except the will to do the right thing. The DSS, the Navy, and several organizations, security organizations, are equipped. They are even sent security reports on all of this. But at the end of the day, they decide to do what they want to do. So you don't need an extra recommendation. You don't need an extra report. You don't need an extra institution. Rather, let the existing security institution be alive to their responsibility. And let the supervising agencies be alive to their responsibility of ensuring that when these things happen, okay, take for instance, a naval ship, a ship containing over 300 million barrels of oil escaping from Nigerian territory down to Equatorial Guinea. Who are the men in check in these places? We have security agencies at checkpoints in all of these places. And we're also told that this ship or these vessels got into our territory without any clearance. So who are the persons responsible for clearing vessels of this nature? The moment the government from the top begins to interrogate, ask questions as to leakages, and make people to pay for whatever infractions or leakages that are called on the performance of their responsibility, I assure you the internal mechanism has the capacity of, in fact, what we also need just more, maybe is to improve surveillance. But the question is that no matter the technology, what kind of technology you employ, use CCTV camera everywhere, this will be compromised when there's no change of attitude. A change of attitude is expected from whoever that is leading this country, and they must show good example. Go show the example of commitment to safeguard. Just imagine what we're talking about. The basic source of revenue to this country is being threatened. And on a daily basis, we are talking about borrowing, not being able to pay salaries of people and all that. When God has blessed us, in fact, we must thank God and appreciate God for his blessing upon us. And do the right thing. Do the right thing. Let resources be controlled. Let us restructure this country. Let ownership be given to the people who own. It happened before, when it was groundnut, when it was cocoa, when it was palm oil. Today it is oil. Let us apply the same derivation principles. Then the people in whose environment these resources are domiciled will be the first security, will be the first police. Will be the first police, and we can take it from there.
All right, Professor Okaba, what do you make of this statement? One, of course, Mr. Government, Ekpemu Polo, popularly known as Tom Polo, has said that there will be no hiding place for oil thieves. And he has stressed that the federal government knows those behind the oil theft in the Niger Delta. Probably reacting to that particular statement, Garba Shehu, all right, one of the aides to the president on media has also said that very soon they will be revealing those behind the crude oil thefts in Nigeria. What do you make of these two statements?
Okay, well, let me take the second first. The spokesman to the president said they are going to reveal and all that. We'll be waiting. We don't need to announce a date for such revelation. If you know them, for as far as I'm concerned, it's long overdue. And again, I think most Nigerians don't take such statement very seriously because, for instance, we talk about forensic audit of the NDDC will be made public, and will be waiting for several months and all that. So if he's willing, he does not need anybody's permission to do that. That is that. On the part statement credited to Tompolo, that with the award of this surveillance contract to him, that is going to drastically reduce the incidence of oil theft. That is very optimistic. I know to a large extent, I'm sure, before the federal government gave him the contract, they must have looked at his antecedents and his capability. But I know it is, like I said earlier, it's a necessary end. It's a necessary end, but it has to be complemented by other deliberate efforts, one of which must be the question of having modular refineries and engaging these persons, some of these persons who have the technology of illegal bunkering, engaging them, fortifying them, giving them the necessary technical support, creating the environment for them, so that at the end of the day, it will be a win-win situation for everybody. Many persons will be employed, and that will also reduce criminalities, including kidnapping, sea piracy, drug abuse, lawlessness, militancy, and all that. Because it's a contract that will actually give a constructive engagement to the use of the region.
Now, talking about the internal mechanism to curb oil theft, we do know that about 13 Nigerian Navy personnel are being court-martialed in Lagos for allegedly conniving with crude oil thieves and pipeline vandals and other crimes. Is this enough deterrent for other security officials who might be involved or thinking of getting involved in this racket?
The issue is that 13 is infinitesimal. Because if you actually study the dynamics of the operations of these oil theft, it percolates through so many strata and gets down. So 13, I want to believe that the 13 are just scapegoats. They let them do more. And if they do more, are seen to be doing more, then it will serve as deterrent.
Well said, sir. We also know that the Nnpc recently launched an app to monitor oil theft. I want you to speak on the role technology could potentially play in curbing some of these situations where humans or human beings might not have the temerity to do so. The app is supposed to allow companies, especially international companies, report suspicious sales of crude, and also to give a platform for the community and other Nigerians to report any incidents of oil theft, and also an incentive to reward those who report these oil thefts. Will your comments on that?
Yeah, in a civilized society, you expect result. But in our own country, where, like I said earlier, everybody who has the opportunity wants to get rich very quickly, including the use of shortcuts that are even inimical to their own health and society. These don't work. The technology will not operate itself. The technology will be operated by people. Some persons will do the reporting. Others will do the analysis. At the end of the day, what will come out will depend on the attitude of the people that are involved. That is the point. So I know technology can do a lot, but the persons behind the technology, the attitude of the people, the attitude, the appetite, and the courage of the people, the mentality of the persons behind all of this is very important. Yes, CCTV coverage, in most cases, like all criminal events and all that, we know that some places where you have CCTV cameras and all that. But at the end of the day, what do you get? These things are brazenly compromised. So Nnpc, yes, act is very good, but let there be a show of commitment to the national interest. That is very, very low. That is abysmally low. And that exhibition by even government officials is the major factor that is encouraging corruption in all places. The government officials, Nigerian citizens want to learn and want to be seen that, yes, they are voted into power, they are given responsibility, and catered for on the basis of the taxes paid by the people to do the right thing. Let them do the right thing. And also people, I'm not saying that citizens should wait for government officials to do that, but it will encourage us. That is just the point I want to make. And let us also come up with laws in addition to do all of that. Let us give resources, because these double standards, I want to tell you this. One of the reasons for oil theft is frustration. It's frustration. People just felt that, look, this thing passed through our bowels, destroys our environment. We don't have our fishes, our rivers, our lands, our ecosystem, entire ecosystem is no longer good enough, is no longer usable. And at the end of the day, what the resources get to the headquarters, and people are getting rich, contracts are awarded to people outside the region and will remain neglected. So let it be a payback. Those things, but if you do resource control, all of that at least will put to rest.
All right, I want to say many thanks to you, Professor Okaba, the president of the Ijaw National Congress, for your time here on Newsday.